You click that little icon in the corner of Chrome, the window goes dark, you see that mysterious spy guy with the hat and sunglasses, and you feel like you just activated some kind of secret agent mode. Incognito mode, private browsing, whatever your browser calls it. You're invisible now, right? Your activity is hidden. Nobody can track what you're doing. That's what the dark theme and the spy imagery suggest. But here's what Google doesn't tell you when you open that incognito window. Here's what Apple conveniently leaves out of Safari's private browsing explanation. That feeling of privacy you just got? It's almost completely fake. Incognito mode isn't making you invisible, it's just putting a blindfold on your own computer, and in the next 15 minutes, you're going to understand exactly who can still see everything you do online and why the companies behind these browsers are perfectly fine with you thinking you're protected when you're absolutely not. Let's talk about what happens in your actual life when you use incognito mode. You're shopping for a birthday present for your partner. You don't want them seeing it in your browsing history when they borrow your laptop later. So you open an incognito window, browse Amazon, find the perfect gift, close the window, done. The evidence is gone. Or you're researching something embarrassing. Maybe it's a medical question you don't want anyone to know about. Maybe you're checking if that weird symptom is normal or if you need to see a doctor. You go incognito because you don't want that search sitting in your browser history for the next person who uses your computer. Or maybe you're just looking at flight prices. And you've heard that airlines track your searches and raise prices if you keep checking the same route. So you go incognito thinking it'll reset your identity, give you a clean slate, stop the price manipulation. These are the reasons people use incognito mode: to hide from family members who share their computer, to avoid embarrassing suggestions in their search bar, to feel like they have some privacy in a world where everything feels tracked and monitored. And for those specific things, incognito mode actually works. Your browsing history won't show those searches, your cookies get deleted when you close the window, someone using your laptop later won't see what you were looking at. That part is true. But here's the massive gap between what you think incognito does and what it actually does. You think you're invisible to the internet. You're not. You're only invisible to other people using your same device. Your internet service provider, they see everything. Every single website you visit in incognito mode, Comcast knows, Verizon knows, AT&T knows. The list of websites you visited isn't hidden from them at all. They're routing your traffic. Incognito mode doesn't encrypt anything or hide your requests from your ISP. The websites you visit, they absolutely know you're there. Amazon sees your IP address whether you're in incognito or not. Google still tracks your searches. Facebook still knows you visited. Every website you browse to in incognito mode sees your visit exactly the same as if you were in regular mode. Your employer or school, if you're on their network, they can see everything too. That IT department monitoring the company Wi-Fi, incognito mode does nothing to hide your activity from them. You're on their network. They see the traffic. The dark theme in your browser doesn't make you invisible to network administrators. And this is where it gets really interesting. Most people think incognito mode is a privacy tool. But it's not. It's a local history management tool. That's it. It manages what gets saved on your specific device. It does absolutely nothing about the actual privacy of your internet activity. There's this thing I call the theater privacy effect. It's when something looks private but only performs privacy without actually providing it. Think about it like whispering in a crowded Starbucks. You lean in close to your friend and whisper so the person at the next table can't hear. And sure, that person next to you might not catch what you're saying, but your conversation isn't actually private. The barista might hear, someone walking by might catch it. The security camera is definitely recording you talking, even if it can't pick up audio. And if someone really wanted to know what you said, there are ways to find out. That's incognito mode. It looks private, it feels private. The dark color scheme, the spy imagery, the name itself, all suggest secrecy and protection. But you're only hiding from the most surface level observation. Everyone else with any actual ability to monitor you, they see everything. And this matters because millions of people are making decisions based on a completely false sense of security. They're browsing things they think are private but aren't. They're skipping actual privacy tools like VPNs because they think incognito mode already protects them. They're feeling safe when they're totally exposed. When you don't understand what incognito actually does, you end up in situations where you thought you were protected, but you weren't. You thought your medical searches were private, but your insurance company potentially bought that data from a data broker who got it from your ISP. You thought your job searching was hidden, but your employer saw you visiting LinkedIn and competitor websites on the company network. You thought you were safely researching something sensitive, but it's all sitting in logs somewhere. The false sense of security is actually more dangerous than having no privacy tool at all. Because at least without a tool, you know you're exposed. You act accordingly. But incognito mode makes you feel protected while leaving you completely visible to everyone except the person sitting next to you. Here's where it gets even more interesting. There's another pattern I call the advertiser blind spot. And this one is particularly sneaky because it touches on what companies can still track even when you're trying to avoid tracking. Incognito mode deletes cookies when you close the window. Cookies are little files that websites use to remember you. So in theory, websites can't track you across sessions if the cookies keep getting deleted, right? Wrong. Because cookies are just one tracking method, and they're actually becoming one of the least important ones. Modern tracking doesn't need cookies. It uses something called browser fingerprinting. Think of it like this. When you walk into a Target, you might wear a disguise. Hat, sunglasses, maybe even a fake mustache, but you still walk with the same gait, same height, same build, same shoe size. Someone paying attention to those details could recognize you anyway. That's browser fingerprinting. Even without cookies, your browser reveals tons of information. Your screen resolution, your operating system, your installed fonts, your time zone, your language settings, the plugins you have installed, the version of your browser, whether you have ad blockers running. All of these data points combine into a unique fingerprint that identifies you almost as accurately as a cookie would. And incognito mode does nothing to change any of this. Your browser fingerprint is exactly the same whether you're in incognito or not. So websites can still track you, ad networks can still follow you around the internet, data brokers can still build profiles. Incognito mode maybe stops the most basic cookie-based tracking. But modern surveillance capitalism doesn't rely on just cookies anymore. It evolved past that years ago. And here's what makes this particularly frustrating. Google knows this. They make Chrome. They also make billions from advertising that relies on tracking. So when they give you incognito mode, they're giving you a tool that addresses the oldest, most obsolete form of tracking while leaving all the modern tracking methods completely intact. It's like they handed you a shield that blocks arrows while everyone else switched to guns decades ago. You feel protected. You're holding a shield. But it's not actually stopping anything that matters. Pay attention to this. The people who profit from tracking you are the same people who built the privacy tool you're using to avoid tracking. Think about that incentive structure. Do you really think they built something that meaningfully threatens their business model? Now let's talk about what I call the ISP surveillance channel. This is the big one that almost nobody thinks about. Every single thing you do online goes through your internet service provider. Every website you visit, every search you make, every video you watch, all of it routes through Comcast or Verizon or whoever you pay for internet. And they can see all of it. They see the actual web addresses you're visiting. They see how long you stay on each site. They see how much data you're downloading. They can build incredibly detailed profiles of your online behavior. Incognito mode does absolutely nothing to hide this. Nothing. Zero. Your ISP sees incognito traffic exactly the same as regular traffic, because from their perspective, there is no difference. They're routing data packets. Whether your browser saves a local history file or not is completely irrelevant to them. And here's what's particularly uncomfortable. Your ISP is a company, a for-profit company. They have your data, lots of it. And in America, ISPs are legally allowed to sell your browsing data. They can sell it to advertisers, to data brokers, to anyone willing to pay. There was briefly a rule preventing this. In 2016, the FCC created regulations blocking ISPs from selling your browsing history without permission. But in 2017, Congress voted to eliminate those protections. Now your ISP can legally sell detailed logs of everywhere you go online. So even if you're diligently using incognito mode for everything sensitive, your ISP is sitting there with a complete record. And they can monetize it. your medical searches, your financial research, your job hunting, your personal questions, all potentially for sale. And most people have no idea this is happening. They think incognito mode protects them. They think the spy guy icon means privacy. They think because their browser isn't saving history, nobody is saving history. But your ISP is absolutely saving history. They might keep logs for weeks, months, even years, depending on their policies and legal requirements. That data exists, and incognito mode didn't stop any of it from being collected. This is why security experts get so frustrated when people treat incognito mode as a privacy tool. It's not. It was never designed to be. It's a local history management feature that accidentally got marketed with privacy imagery that completely misrepresents what it actually does. Let me tell you about my friend Alexis. Alexis is super careful about privacy. Always uses incognito mode when researching anything personal. Medical stuff, financial planning, relationship questions, all of it in incognito. Alexis genuinely believed this was protecting her privacy. She'd see that dark window and feel safe. Feel like she was taking control of her digital footprint. She'd even recommend incognito mode to friends as a privacy tip. Then Alexis started getting ads for something extremely specific she'd only researched in incognito mode, like eerily specific. She'd searched for information about a particular medical condition in incognito, never mentioned it to anyone, never searched for it in regular browsing, only incognito. A week later, ads for treatments for that exact condition started appearing in her Instagram feed, in YouTube, in random websites. The targeting was so precise, it couldn't be coincidence. And Alexis was confused and creeped out. How did they know? She'd been so careful. She'd used incognito mode for everything. She thought she'd covered her tracks, but she hadn't. Because incognito mode didn't stop the website from seeing her IP address, didn't stop her ISP from logging the visits, didn't stop data brokers from buying that information and connecting it to her advertising profile, didn't stop browser fingerprinting from tracking her across sites. The privacy she thought she had was completely illusory. The tool she trusted to protect her did nothing of the sort. And now she's getting served highly personal medical ads because the system she thought was private was actually transparent the entire time. Now compare that to my other friend Cameron. Cameron doesn't trust incognito mode. He actually learned what it does and doesn't do. So when Cameron researches anything sensitive, he uses actual privacy tools. He uses a VPN that encrypts his traffic so his ISP can't see which websites he visits. The ISP sees encrypted data going to a VPN server. They have no idea what sites Cameron is actually accessing. He uses a privacy-focused browser like Firefox with enhanced tracking protection, or sometimes Brave, which blocks ads and trackers by default. These browsers actively fight browser fingerprinting and block tracking scripts. He uses a search engine like DuckDuckGo that doesn't create a profile of his searches. Google tracks every search you make and builds detailed profiles. DuckDuckGo doesn't store any personally identifiable information. Cameron's approach isn't perfect. No privacy approach is. But he's actually using tools that address the real threats to privacy. Tools that protect against ISP surveillance, against advertiser tracking, against fingerprinting. Not just a local history cleaner that makes him feel safe while leaving him exposed. Notice the difference? Alexis felt private but wasn't. Cameron understood the actual threats and addressed them appropriately. Same desire for privacy, completely different outcomes. Here's what most people don't realize. Privacy and the feeling of privacy are two completely different things. And tech companies have learned they can give you the feeling without providing the substance. Incognito mode gives you the feeling. The dark theme creates an aesthetic of secrecy. The spy imagery suggests covert operations. The name itself implies hidden activity. Your brain sees all these signals and concludes that you must be protected. But actual privacy requires protecting your data from the entities that want to collect it. And those entities are your ISP, advertising networks, data brokers, government surveillance, employer monitoring, and website tracking. Not your roommate who might borrow your laptop. Incognito mode only addresses that last one. the least important one, the one that poses the smallest threat to your actual privacy, and it lets you believe you've solved the whole problem when you've barely addressed any of it. The companies that make browsers know this. They know what Incognito does and doesn't do. They know most users misunderstand it, but they don't exactly rush to correct that misunderstanding, because a user who thinks they have privacy is a happy user. A user who understands they have almost no privacy might start demanding real privacy tools that threaten business models built on surveillance. So we get theater, we get the appearance of privacy, we get tools that look protective but don't actually protect against anything that matters. And millions of people use these tools every day thinking they're safe. So here's what we've uncovered. Incognito mode creates the theater privacy effect. It looks and feels private without providing actual privacy. It only hides your activity from other users of your device, which is the least important privacy threat most people face. The advertiser blind spot means modern tracking doesn't need cookies anymore. Browser, fingerprinting, and other methods track you right through incognito mode. The companies that profit from tracking you built the tool you're using to avoid them. The ISP surveillance channel is the biggest gap. Your internet provider sees everything regardless of incognito mode. They can legally sell that data, and they're sitting between you and every website you visit, logging everything. Incognito mode isn't useless. It does exactly what it was designed to do, which is manage local history on your device. But it's not a privacy tool. It's a local history manager with privacy-adjacent branding that misleads people into thinking they're protected when they're not. The question isn't whether incognito mode works. It does work at its actual purpose. The question is whether you understand what that purpose actually is. Because if you think incognito mode makes you invisible to ISPs, to advertisers, to websites, to anyone except other people using your computer, then you're operating under a dangerous misunderstanding. Now, you know that the dark window isn't protecting you from the things that actually threaten your privacy. You know that real privacy requires real tools. VPNs, privacy-focused browsers, tracking, protection, encryption. Not just a local history cleaner dressed up in spy imagery. So next time you click that incognito button and see the spy guy appear, ask yourself, am I hiding from my roommate? Or am I hiding from surveillance capitalism? Because incognito mode only solves the former. And once you see that distinction, you can't unsee it. You'll know exactly what protection you have and what protection you're still missing.